So, when you hear the word Silk Road, what's the first thing that pops into your head? For most of us, it's probably a single dusty path, right? A long line of camels stretching across an endless desert. But what if I told you that mental picture is almost completely wrong? The reality is so much bigger, way more complex, and honestly, infinitely more important to how our world works, even today. And this, right here, this really nails it. For over 1,500 years, this network wasn't just about moving stuff around. It was the very lifeblood, pumping ideas, culture, technology, and sometimes, yeah, even death across entire continents. It was shaping empires and writing history long before anyone even dreamed of a global economy. Okay, so if it wasn't just one road, then what was it? Let's break down what this first true global network actually looked like. Right, so I want you to completely forget the idea of a single highway. Instead, picture a massive web, like a complex system of arteries and veins crisscrossing the ancient world. We're talking about a network stretching from the capitals of China, winding through the insane mountain ranges of Central Asia, across the Persian Empire, and reaching all the way to the Mediterranean. This was the bridge connecting the world's ancient superpowers. I mean, think about it for a second. You had gold, you had powerful spices, you had revolutionary things like gunpowder, even entire religions moving along these paths. So why did this one kind of delicate fabric get top billing? Why the Silk Road? Well, it really just comes down to the simple economics of a very, very difficult journey. Silk was basically the perfect product for long-distance trade. It was incredibly lightweight, but it was literally worth more than its weight in gold. So you could pack an absolute fortune onto a single animal. And maybe most importantly, for centuries, China held the secret, a total monopoly on how to make it. That made silk the ultimate status symbol. And the cultural impact was just huge. The demand in Rome was completely off the charts. You had Roman senators and historians complaining that the entire empire was draining its gold reserves just to buy this exotic, almost transparent fabric from the East. It wasn't just a product, it was a full-blown cultural phenomenon, a symbol of extreme luxury and even a little bit of controversy. But here's the crazy part. The story of how this whole thing got started, it isn't a story about merchants looking to get rich. It's a story of geopolitics, of emperors, and a desperate mission that had a completely unintended consequence. That's right. This economic superhighway was actually born from military strategy. The mighty Han Dynasty in China, they weren't trying to open up a new market. No, they were trying to solve a huge national security problem they had on their northern borders. So let's walk through how this happened. The Han were in a constant, brutal fight with these fierce nomads called the Xiongnu. The emperor, Emperor Wu, he gets this idea to send a diplomat, a guy named Zhang Yan, on this incredibly dangerous mission out west to try and find allies. Well, the poor guy gets captured, he escapes, and he ends up traveling for more than a decade. He comes back with no military alliance, but he returns with something way more valuable: information. He brought back these amazing stories of powerful, wealthy civilizations in places like Persia, a whole world China had no idea existed. And that knowledge, that's what sparked the first official diplomatic and then trade routes. And once those routes were open, man, the floodgates just burst. What flowed across the continents was, well, pretty much everything that made the ancient world tick. But first, let's bust another myth. You know that romantic image of a single merchant making the epic journey all the way from China to Rome? Yeah, that almost never happened. The journey was just too long, too dangerous. Instead, the whole system worked like a massive relay race. A merchant would carry his goods for a few hundred kilometers, sell them at a trading hub, and then another merchant would take them on the next leg of the journey. Of course, each time the goods changed hands, the price went up, which is why anything that made it to the very end was astronomically expensive. And just look at what was being exchanged. This was a true two-way street. Coming out of the East, you had not just silk and spices, but world-changing technologies like paper and gunpowder. And flowing back from the West and the Middle East, you had gold, silver, powerful horses, and these foundational ideas in astronomy and mathematics. It was, no exaggeration, the world's first global marketplace. But as incredible as all of those physical things were, they weren't the most important cargo moving along the Silk Road. Not even close. The truly transformative exports were ideas. And you know, ideas, they travel a lot faster and a lot further than any caravan. Think about this. Buddhism, born in India, spread along these trade roads to become one of the most dominant faiths across all of East Asia. Chinese papermaking technology made its way to the Islamic world and then eventually to Europe, where it became absolutely essential for the Renaissance to even happen. Gunpowder changed warfare forever, everywhere. And the incredible scientific knowledge from the Middle East in algebra and medicine, it poured into Europe, laying the groundwork for centuries of progress. This was the original information superhighway. But all of this incredible connection, it came with a terrifying dark side. This number, 1/3, represents the estimated portion of Europe's entire population that was wiped out by the Black Death in the 14th century. And there you have it. The very same routes that carried silk and Buddhism and knowledge also carried disease. The bacteria that caused the plague traveled right along the Silk Road's trade network, hitching a ride from Central Asia all the way to the Mediterranean. It's a pretty sobering reminder that globalization has always been a double-edged sword. Now, by the 15th century, the golden age of the overland caravans, well, it started to fade. But its legacy, the very idea of a connected world, that was never going to disappear. So what happened? Why did it decline? It was really a perfect storm. First, the Mongol Empire, which had made the routes safer than ever before, collapsed into chaos. That made land travel super dangerous again. At the exact same time, technology for shipbuilding and navigation was improving like crazy. All of a sudden, it became faster, safer, and way, way cheaper to move tons of goods by sea. The world's economic focus literally shifted from the desert caravan to the ocean-going ship. But the concept itself is so powerful that it's being reborn right now, today. You've probably heard of China's Belt and Road Initiative. It's this massive, multi-trillion-dollar infrastructure project that's explicitly designed to create a new Silk Road. The dusty paths are being replaced with high-speed rail, the camel caravans are now container ships, and the ancient inns are now massive global ports and data centers. The core idea, though? It's exactly the same. Connect the world to facilitate trade and influence. And that's really the ultimate takeaway here. The physical, dusty roads might have faded into the desert, but the principle it established, the idea that connecting civilizations creates wealth, spreads knowledge, and fundamentally changes what it means to be human, that idea is more relevant today than it has ever been. And all of this leaves us with a pretty powerful question for our own hyper-connected age. The original network, remember, brought us both the Renaissance and the plague. So as we build these new digital and physical Silk Roads for the 21st century, we have to ask ourselves what amazing opportunities and what terrifying new risks are going to travel along with them.